Hi guys, it's Professor Fernandez. I am doing a quick instructional video to teach you how to do an annotated outline. Now, if you've never done an annotated outline or just done an outline, this is a little bit different than just doing an outline, say, for a basic like paper, right? An annotated outline is a little bit more involved. It gives more information. It kind of tells the person who's seeing it kind of where the paper is going. It'll show you very quickly any holes that you have in your paper. This is the first time that you will actually get to see kind of a snapshot of the structure of your paper, right? So before we start talking about like where the comma goes, how to sound academic and looking at tone, we're looking at literally how this is going to look like, what it will look like on the page. Now, from last week, hopefully you've seen the video. It's my favorite one of the series that gives you 4 ways to kind of outline or structure your particular essay. And I think that's really useful. If you haven't seen it or need a refresher, I would go back and see that because you actually have some choices here. You can go thematic, you can go chronological, you can go mythology, you can go any way. It's just very tailored to your specific project. And so that is where you kind of learn how to put this together, essentially. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the example that I have for you. I'm going to say, granted, the example is just one I found online. So I wanted to clarify a couple points. I didn't want to just put it up there and say, this is what you do. I wanted to go through some things so you see how you could possibly outline your own papers. But I think you'll also see some of the method to the madness that's been going on in class. You're like, why do I have to do this? And what is this about? So I want to show you this. Let me do a basic screen share here. I'm going to be using my tablet, which, what did we do before iPads? Seriously. All right, so let's do this here. All right, so this is the first page of this particular example. I'm going to preface this by saying that this example does not use MLA, and I'm requiring you to use MLA as your standard structure there. So what you want to do is make sure that you're in MLA format. This is not an MLA format. This is, I think it's APA or something different. So how things are cited here is not how you're going to cite them, okay? So please don't use this as an example of citation because it's not an example of citation. So let's get started. Here is going to start with like a title of your research. So you should probably title your research. The title of your research is not literature review, the challenges of a new era. It's not that. And it's not necessarily your research question. You should really think about a title here. We'll probably go back and forth on a possible title. The title engages the person who's going to be taking in your research paper, whether it's me or whether it's somebody on honors day or any time beyond that. So you really want to work on this title. So this is the first time you have a stab at it. I don't expect all the titles to be great, but I do expect a title there. And this thing you don't have to do. No, that's stupid. Don't do that. Okay, so let's go here. And so we have here that it's going to be a literature review, right? And I want you to see what the format of this is. Of course, it's MLA equals Times New Roman. .12 font, right? So that's what it's going to be. I want you to notice how this and like the big sections are bolded. You're going to go ahead and do that, okay? So I just pointing out some formatting and structure things. It's just little things. So in your introduction here, or how we have this set up, we know that the first thing here, the big one here, is going to be your introductory paragraphs, that section. So we know that under the introduction section, you're going to have an overview and an overview to the research questions. So this is like big picture stuff. This is context of your research, other than the fact that you have to do it for class, right? So see how that works. Context is everything, and this is right right about the research question here. And some things you kind of want to deal with. There's a weird thing on my screen, sorry. Some things you want to deal with this section is that you want to talk about, definitely this is, you're going to do your research question, kind of why it's important. And then kind of a little bit of, well, you'll do methodology a little bit later, why it's important. Right, what are you using as far as like for the pieces that you're doing, and that you're using the rhetorical situation to analyze. Right, boom, there it is. So that kind of is what will happen here in this. You could do it in any which way you want. I want you to notice here how it's not just, this is the section we're going to put here, we're going to put this here. You have here, let me go ahead and do a highlight here. You have actual like sentences, and you also have where this information is going to be coming from, right? So that's what's important here. This is what makes it an annotated outline, is that it's not just, I'm going to have the introduction here or the overview here. This is what's going to go in the overview. I'm going to write about family is fluid and dynamic construct, and it's going to come from these sources. This is why I kind of almost harped, but I let you guys decide how you wanted to organize your research. This is why I said the note card system would be amazing here, because the note card system here, it's literally putting your note cards on the page, right? You literally would have this would be a note card, or this would be 2 note cards. Now, when we have this, when we have this, see here, this tells me where this is from, the Journal of Family Issues, 29th edition, and these are the page numbers, right? The citation is going to be a little bit different. Like you're going to have, let's say Smith wrote the article and it was on page 1407 to 25. And then you'll close it, right? That's actual MLA citation style. So instead of doing the citation style like it is here, you're just going to use MLA citation. That's it. That's the big deal. So going back to the note card system, if you've used the note card system, this is going to be really easy. If you use the research journal, the organization is going to be easy. It's going to be easy as well, because you've already kind of like asked the questions and kind of are trying to track patterns. And so it'll be easier to decide whether you're going to go thematic or you're going to go chronological. But you still have to do this. This is why I like the note card system, because I would literally start taping things on a legal pad and like start writing this as it goes. Okay, so this is your second page of your of this. I want you to note that this space that was down here, right? The space on the bottom. I don't expect you to have that space. There was something else in that space that you guys actually didn't need. Actually, no, there was stuff that was here at the top where it says introduction that you guys didn't need. And so I took that out. And so now there was space on the bottom, so I apologize for that. So that space means nothing. You will have, it will go all like that, right? And so, of course, not only are you going to have all that in your intro, but you're also going to have an overview of literature. And this is actually kind of what I was talking about here. What are you using? This is actually going to go in your C section. This is what you're using. This is how you're using it. And you're reviewing this, right? So that's kind of how it goes there. And so that's all your introduction section. You're probably wondering where the thesis goes. This is kind of, it goes right here. So essentially, because I said this, this, and this is kind of what I'm saying this is happening, right? So it's kind of where it goes for now. It could possibly move up, but for now in this structure, let's go ahead and put it here. So that way we know where it is. And we'll look at flow later, right? We need to know, look where it is. All right, so here we have something called thematical framework. Of course, this is actually not like a literature review about literature, it's about something else. So right here, this is where you're gonna have your analysis of all 3, 4, 5 pieces that you're doing. Right, so here's where me making you do the analysis in memo 3 and memo 4 are going to help you. And the analysis for journals, this is where it's going to help you because you're literally just going to put your analysis that you've been doing here. Do not do writer's purpose and topic and, don't section it off like that. Literally write it as if it has to flow, right? Don't section them off. It has to flow. Now, this is, again, specific to the research. So, for example, if you're looking specifically at audience for your research based on like some speeches that were given, and one of you is doing that, then you're really going to talk about audience. Yes, you'll probably talk about context and topic and all that as you're talking about audience, but that's what you're focusing on because that's where your research is going, right? So if your research doesn't encompass all 5 steps, most of y'all will encompass most of those steps, then what you put forward is what you are actually researching. You're going to talk about the things that kind of surround it, right? So if you're talking about audience, you're still going to talk about writer's purpose. You're still going to talk about context. You're still going to talk about topic. And you're definitely going to talk about strategy, right? But the big deal is going to be audience where you're going to use most of your time, right? Just depends on your research. This is why I wanted to talk to you guys about this, because if I put this out there, it'll be a whole mess and it'll take longer to undo than if I did this, all right? So this is where your analysis here. And so you have 1, 2, 3. If you have more than 3, it goes D, E, F, right? So it goes to all of them. This is going to be a big chunk here. It's going to be a big chunk. Okay. So you have your analysis there. And what I would do, for this section here, like say somebody's doing Girl from Jamaica Kincaid. I know that story as much as I possibly, I know that story backwards and forwards. So you want to talk about Jamaica Kincaid. Maybe your citation is Kincaid, right? And it's the whole story, so you don't have a page number, and you'll talk about kind of the big thing. So if you're doing an analysis of it, and my project is about the role of Black women writers and how they commemorate the struggles and the powers, right? That sounds like somebody's, right? That's Tiffany's. So it would be I would go Kincaid, and I would kind of put my ideas, uses diction, and sentence structure to denotes struggle of African American or Black women. In colonization, right? So that would be the big thing. And I know I'm going to use diction and sentence structure, right? I don't want to confuse it because I just said, this is where you're going to put your analysis. Again, this is an annotated outline. When you write it all out, you're going to put your analysis there. But I just need that one sentence, right? That says, I'm going to use Kincaid and I'm going to really hone in on diction and sentence structure, and it's going to connect to my question or my theory in this way, right? So you're going to do that for all those. Then you have an overview of the literature. This is where you have to make some decisions. Do you want to do it thematically, just by theme, right? Do you want to do it chronologically? This example is a chronological example, right? Are you presenting your working hypothesis or your answer to your research question, your working hypothesis? And by I say working, I mean, as of right now, this very minute that you're writing, this is what you think. Your hypothesis can change. So this is the part of the research where your question is pretty much solidified for the most part. It may change by a word or two, but in concept, it won't change. It's really just refining what you already have. And so from there, you can actually start bringing a working thesis. A working hypothesis. And you get that working hypothesis based on your analysis. What are you seeing in your analysis? What are some things that you're seeing across the board? What conclusions can you reach based on the rhetorical analysis of your 3, 4, 5 pieces? What is the argument that is being presented? There's a reason I made you guys do argument, and that's why. Okay, so what is the argument being presented? What is the working hypothesis? And from the working hypothesis, think about how you want to present this in this paper form. It's like, to prove your working hypothesis, is chronological better? For some of yours, it is. Somebody's doing a really cool project on like the history of language over a time period. Obviously, chronological is the way that they're going to go. Somebody's doing more work about how the work of Dr. King has been sort of bastardized through the years, or been bastardized. They could do thematic by saying, depending on what they find, or they can do chronological. Maybe they found that it's been bastardized because of XYZ, and they can just go, here's this theme, here's that theme, here's that theme, right? So if you're doing, let me see here. If you're doing chronological, right, and this is chronological, so let me flip the page here. If you're doing chronological, or this is actually, it's weird. This one's weird. It's chronological because it starts with history, but then it goes thematic. But if you're going to do chronological, you're literally going to write, say you're going to do the comment. Whatever, right? And so it'll start here. Again, this is not about the comment. Maybe there's something about the comment that was written here, right? And this is about, and if you're doing chronological, you're doing chronological by the date of the literature, right? And by literature, I mean your research, because you've already done the analysis, right? Let me erase that so you don't get confused, right? That's how that goes. If you're doing thematic, the theme goes in these lettered things here. That's how it goes, right? And so then under here is, you're going to put it in the order how you want it to go in that section. I don't want you to think that this is one big paragraph. Not a big paragraph. All right, we're talking about sections now. Again, this is why doing the note cards will help you here. If you've done the note cards, you already have theme. Like when you start putting all the note cards out together and stacking them by the titles of those cards, you already have theme. You can decide to go with theme, or you can decide to go in another direction, right? So if you already have the cards and you're going by theme because those are the titles of your cards, you can actually put similar theme things stacks together and think of each one of these as a card, or each one of these as one of the aspects of the theme, and these things as the cards, right? We're going to talk about this thing, and this is like 3 sources that talk about this, right? And these are my 3 sources. Then the next thing I want to talk about under this is this. These are my sources here. So again, if I haven't said this enough, the note card system will set you free. I promise you that. Okay. So thematic, chronological, I hit those 2 because those are usually the ones students flock to because it just makes sense. Okay. So then you have at the end, D, research methodologies. Now, this particular example has them at the end. I have seen ones that are like right after the intro. Like they'll stick it right after here, right? For this particular packet, go ahead and stick it at the end because it's not quite, just stick it at the end for right now. Because we're going to work on flow later. More than likely, it'll stay at the end, but we'll work on flow later. Okay, so research methodologies at the end. How you put this together. Yay! All right, and then the summary. A summary of what you found and how you came to your conclusion. All right, so that's just the annotated outline. Okay, I don't want you to panic. This is a great exercise to tell me the goods, where you are. It'll show me and I'll show you where you are, and what you still need to do. We just barely got into the research databases last week, so I am not expecting a long list of literature that you are reviewing, but I want to see what you have so far. And I'm just like with your memo 3s, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to mark it up and you're going to get feedback from me, where like maybe your research is probably jumping off the rails, where you need to push more, what you need to find. So you would rather me read this and give you feedback than write the darn thing and me tell you this makes no sense, right? So this guarantees that you're going in the right direction and that you have a more concrete plan for what you're going to do. So there's that. What I'm not going to tell you and what I'm not going to do, because it is not my place, because again, it's not my research, I'm just here to guide you. What I'm not going to do is approve or disapprove your outline. I don't want you to say, okay, is this okay? Is this outline okay? Or is this structure okay? I'm not going to say yes or no. What I am going to do is ask questions. And I'll ask, why did you decide to go thematic instead of chronological? What was your thoughts about that? Why did you, what was it about these 3 or 4 pieces that you decided could help you answer this question? I could see based on what you have here on your analysis, your small like sentence or 2 here about analysis, I don't see you proving or disproving this hypothesis. What's up? So or don't see you proving this hypothesis. So what's up? Okay. I also want to talk about finding research that may go against what your hypothesis is, right? Just because it's going against your hypothesis doesn't necessarily mean that you don't include it in your paper. Include it in your paper, because a part of having a conversation is that you have people who disagree with you or see another point of view. Include those and talk about those. It doesn't necessarily have to be its own section. Actually, I would put it in its own section, how I would organize it. But it just depends how you're going to do it. I would put it in there, right? So let's talk about references. Again, it's works cited. And obviously this is not MLA, right? There are some things that are similar, but it is not an MLA format. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to have your works cited here. I asked for a working works cited page or a working bibliography. This is where you put it as an attachment to your annotated outline, because I want to see. Remember that I think you had, I think it's 8 to 10 sources. Yeah, 8 to 10 sources. This is minimum. You can have more. You probably will have more. So I want to see well-sourced. I can tell you in the past, being the honors writing coach, the best papers, the best graded papers, and the best papers that would go on to honors day were the one with the best sources. Full stop. Sources do half the work for you. And then yes, it's the writing, it's the flow, it's the work that you do with the conclusion, it's or the analysis, or it's the work that you did as you're trying to have a conversation with the academic world. So yeah. Sorry, I forgot to tell you something. I'm going to rewind. Let's go back to the intro. In the first part, when we do the introduction and the overview, I can't believe I skipped over this. I apologize. We have the overview, right? The big picture of the question, the topic that you're doing. You really want to talk about what has been talked about in the conversation so far. What is this conversation that's being had, right? In one of y'all's examples, we talked about Dr. King's legacy and the bastardization of King and his legacy. Here's where you have that conversation of this has been something that scholars have talked about in papers, and they've come to certain conclusions this way. This is something that James Baldwin talked about in I Am Not Your Negro, so you want to talk about the conversation so far, almost like you're highlighting some of the things you're going to talk about or some of the literature you're going to talk about. This is not where you're going to give me the summary of it and talk about it. But this, you're just kind of giving me a hint, like this is what you look forward to, right? All right, I think that's all that we have right now. I know I went through that very quickly. So if you have questions, definitely ask. This is, I'm gonna say that this could be slightly overwhelming, right? Because we're at the part of the semester where you're starting to put things on paper and you're starting to commit to things. We're going from like, oh, this is a really good idea, to actually trying to execute the idea. And so it's going to seem very overwhelming, kind of scary. and that's okay. Research can sometimes be scary, so I don't want this to throw you. And I don't want you to think that um, that this outline is set in stone. It's not. Again, this is the first time I'm going to look at what you have so far. The only I will only be upset if you have nothing. It's like if you've done nothing, like literally there's no research. There's barely just analysis. Like, give me something, right? I need something in there. Um, at least an opposing viewpoint of some sort, right? Um, so go ahead and start doing that. You have a couple of weeks to do this. This is a thick packet for Memo 4. So I'm not expecting you to do this in a week, but I do want to see it in 2. So you have some time, not a lot of time. I'm not giving you a lot of time. You know why? Because I don't want you to procrastinate on this. I want this. I want to see what your paper is going to look like, because now we're going to start hammering some things. Yes, now you get to see the stern Fernandez and not the, oh, that's so great, Fernandez. I have put her in a box and she won't come out until the end of the semester. Now it's the stern Fernandez. Do me proud, people. You have great ideas, so do me proud. If you have any questions, please let me know. Bye.